name's Joey Murphy. I'm with Seymour Community Schools as a trainer. I'm going to go over the Class B school bus pre-trip and do the driving course. During your test, you will get a sheet of paper and it will list all the items that you will need to go over. And the first check on this is the air brake check. So we'll come on here and I'll show you how to do the air brake check. So on the air brake check, you'll want to turn your key on to the right one click, to where your gauges will come up. You'll want to push on the brake until your pressure gets to 90 psi. Our gauges are at 90 psi, so we want to start the bus. And then what we're doing is we're going to listen for the air brake governor to kick off. Once it kicks off, we'll acknowledge that. I'm going to give it a little bit of gas to help build the pressure up a little bit faster. I'm going to try to stay around 1,000 to 1,100 RPMs. Alright, my air brake governor has kicked off. The pressure is between 120 and 140. So at this point, I'm going to turn the bus off. I'm going to turn it back to the right, one click. Let my gauges build up pressure. And then I'm going to release my parking brake. Let the air out. Then I'm going to hold my surface brake for 1 minute, making sure I don't lose no more than 3 psi. We'll just say my minute is up. So now I'm going to advise that I'm going to fan the brakes or pump the brakes. I'm looking for my warning light and my audible alarm to come on before the pressure hits below 55 psi. So my audible alarm has went off and my warning light is on. So now I need to continue to fan my brakes, and I'm looking for this valve to pop out or close. So it's going to pop out between the pressures of 20 and 45 psi. And my pop out valve has closed. This completes the parking brake test. After that, I can check that off on my list. So now I'm going to have myself or somebody help me check all my exterior lights. I'm going to have them check my low beam headlights, my clearance lights, my strobe lights, my tail lights, my brake light, reverse lights, license plate light, and my tail lights. I'm going to make sure that they're all working properly. I'm going to start the bus. I want to check my ABS light indicator, make sure it comes on and goes off. It has went off. So I'm going to start the bus to have the air pressure build up. As it's building up, I'm going to check my high beams, make sure the indicator works. My left turn signal, make sure it works. My right turn signal, make sure it works. Do my hazard lights. And then I'm going to turn my student amber lights on, make sure that the indicator is working. I'm going to turn my warning lights on, make sure the indicator is working, my cross gate is working, and the lights on my stop bar are working. And then I'm going to open the door, make sure the door opens. I'm going to make sure my loading lights and my step light is on. I'm going to close the door to make sure that the door operates properly. So that is all my external lights and my indicating lights. I'm going to check my windshield, make sure it's mounted and secure, no cracks or nothing in the way. Make sure the DOT sticker is up to date. So that's my windshield. My monitoring devices are my mirrors. I'm going to make sure that all my mirrors are mounted secure, not cracked, broken, or missing. Make sure that the lenses are clean and make sure they're properly adjusted for me. I'm going to check my windshield wipers. I'm going to check every speed. And then I'm going to make sure that all the fluid comes out. There's some fluid. So those are working properly. Check that off. I'm going to check my heaters and defrost. I'm going to check every speed. Got my fans as well. And I'm going to do my noise suppression switch just as a safety for railroad tracks. Make sure that is working properly. That's the heater and horns, or heater and defroster. Now I'm going to check my horn. Horn works properly. Now I'm going to check my parking brake. I'm going to put the bus in drive, give it gas, make sure it holds, put it in reverse, give gas, make sure it holds, it's working properly. I'm going to check my service brake. This, I will put the bus in drive, release the parking brake, and drive 5 miles an hour. Then apply the brake, make sure the steering wheel doesn't move left or right. And if it does, it might indicate that the braking system might need worked on. Let go of the wheel, apply the brake. Everything's working smoothly there. So I'm back to, now I'm going to check my steps and my handrails. Make sure that the handrails are nice and mounted secure. Check my steps, make sure that they're clean. Make sure that the tread is mounted secure and not worn. So that's my entry. So then I'm going to check all my emergency equipment. So I'm going to check my emergency release. So if there was an accident, I can hit my release to open the doors. I'm going to check my 5-pound fire extinguisher, make sure it's mounted secure, the pin is in place, and that the indicator is in the green. I'm going to check my seatbelt cutter, make sure it's within reach of the driver. I'm going to check my 3 triangles, make sure that they're mounted secure, that they are in place. And then I'm going to check my fuse box and make sure I have at least 6 extra fuses. And I'm going to come up here, check my body fluid cleanup kit, and then my first aid kit. Make sure that everything is labeled and in the proper things. So let's see here. So stop arm, safety arms out, stop lights. So I'm gonna check my emergency exits. I got 3 on each side, 2 roof. I'm gonna make sure it's labeled properly. Got the alarm sounds, opens and closes securely. On the back door, make sure it's labeled just like the windows. But on this one, I want to make sure that when I open the door, it does not come back in. So I want to make sure that latches, push back, come back in. All right. on my way back up, I'm going to check every seat frame. Make sure the frame is mounted to the floor, the seat cushion is mounted to the frame, and make sure that all the seats are in good working condition and all mounted and secure, no damage. Check all my cameras, make sure they're mounted and secure. I'm going to check my student mirrors, make sure that it's mounted and secure and that I can see the kids appropriately in my mirror. Make sure that the sun visor is mounted secure as well. So as you can tell, all my inside equipment has all been checked. So now we go to the outside. I'll have to, since we had the student lights on, I gotta go back and check my child safety reminder. So now we'll go to the outside. So from here, we'll start in the front. We're going to make sure we're going to check the overall appearance of the bus, make sure it's not leaning side to side. We're going to check all my lenses. We're going to check the clearance lights, the student lights, the turn signals, and the headlights. Make sure that the lenses are not cracked, broken, or missing, and make sure that they are the proper color. Then we're going to go open the hood. So on here, we're going to check all the fluid levels. So on this side, on the left side of the bus, we got the radiator. This is radiator fluid. Make sure it's in good condition, proper level. Make sure the cap's on. Check all my hoses. Make sure that there are no leaks from the hoses. Check my oil. Make sure it's in between the add and the fuel line. Check my air filter. Make sure it's in the green. Check my windshield washer fluid, make sure it have proper level, and make sure that there's no leaks in the system. As I'm looking all over the engine, I'm looking for any kind of fuel leaks under the bus, under the motor, on the top part of my motor. Make sure there's no fluid or fuel leaks. And I'm also trying to listen for any audible sounds could indicate an air leak for my air brakes. So we'll go to the passenger side. Passenger side, we're going to check our power steering fluid. Make sure that it's in the proper level. There's no leaks in the hoses. Check my transmission fluid. Make sure it's in the proper level. Same thing as the left side. I'm going to check on the right side. We'll check all over the motor, underneath the bus, underneath the motor, on top of the motor. Make sure there's no leaks and no fuel leaks and no air leaks. So now we got the steering system that we're going to check. So this is the steering linkage, the gearbox, the pitman arm, drag link, tie rod ends. We're going to make sure that all the bolts and cotter pins are in place and that there's no damage to the system. If there is damage, we need to make sure we get that fixed because it could cause steering issues with the bus. So I want to check my tires. The front tires, I want to make sure that there's no more than 430 seconds on the tread left, and on the back, on the rear, make sure there's no less than 230 seconds. I'm going to check the tires to make sure there's no bulges on the side, no cupping, and make sure the tread's worn evenly. I'm going to make sure the proper air pressure to the valve stem and cap. Make sure I use the proper tire gauge to make sure the pressure is appropriate. I'm going to check my rims. I'm going to make sure that there's no welds or broken pieces in the rims, just so that it could cause a failure. Make sure that it's in good condition. I'm going to check the lug nuts. Make sure each lug nut is tight. Make sure that the bolts has not elongated. Make sure there's no rust marks on there, because it could mean that a loose lug nut or a broken bolt. If that is the case, we need to get that fixed. Now we're going to check on my spring mounts, springs and spring mounts. So this is my spring, this is my U-bolt. I'm going to make sure that it's mounted secure, not damaged. Make sure all the bolts and cotter pins are in place. I'm going to make sure my shock, make sure it's mounted secure, not leaking. All bolts are tight and not leaking. I'm going to check my airbags, mainly in the rear, but make sure there's no audible leaks in the rear of the bus. For my airbags, make sure they're mounted and secure. Alright, now I'm going to check my brake lines and hoses. So, I got my air lines. Make sure all my air lines, there's no audible sounds coming out. Air brake chamber, make sure it's mounted secure. Make sure there's no leaks. I'm going to check my brake pads and rotors. Make sure that they are mounted secure, not worn dangerously thin. So there's my brake lines and hoses, and then my brake containment. So that's it on underneath the bus. I went to the side of the bus. I'm going to make sure that my strobe light, my clearance lights, my turn signal, and reflectors, they're all mounted secure, not cracked, broken, or missing, clean, in the proper color. I'm going to check my cameras to make sure that they are mounted secure. Check all my mirrors, make sure they're mounted secure, not cracked, broken, or missing. And make sure the stop arm is mounted secure and not missing. I'm going to check my battery box. Make sure the door opens and closes and is mounted secure. Make sure all the batteries are mounted and secure, and no wires are frayed, no loose wires, and no corrosion on the batteries. So at this point, I'm going to check the frame from front to back, my cross members from side to side. Make sure there's no damage, no rust, anything that, make sure it's nice and solid. Now I went to the rear of the bus. On the rear of the bus, all it says is the lenses and reflectors. So I got my clearance lights, my student lights, my turn signal, brake lights, reverse lights, my tail lights, my license plate light, and my reflectors. We'll make sure that they're the proper color. The lenses are not cracked, broken, or missing, and they're clean. And then on this side of the bus, on the passenger side, I'm going to check my fuel tank. Make sure that the cap is on nice and tight. There's no leaks through the hoses or lines. Make sure the tank's mounted and secure. Make sure the impact guard is in place and mounted secure. And as you can tell, at this point we are done with the pre-trip. Every item on this sheet has been checked off and has been checked. So that completes the pre-trip inspection.